Okay, I hope everyone can see my screen. Okay, so let me introduce myself. So my name is Raghu, and I have an overall of 13 plus years of experience, all in the field of SAP infrastructure security. So when I say infrastructure security, it covers almost all aspects of it. I have listed out a couple of my area of expertise down there. I've been working on HANA, I've been working on Fiori, been working on GRC 10.1, 12, UI5, been working on SuccessFactors and other cloud-based SaaS products like IBP. I have also worked on CyberArk. I'm a certified PIM-PAM consultant, and yeah, I've worked on a lot of greenfield implementations. I hope you can keep up with the terminology which I'll be using. If you're not aware, just shout out. I can explain that. So greenfields are nothing but scratch implementations where the clients are not on SAP and they want to be on SAP. So those are greenfield implementations. And brownfield implementation, earlier we used to call them as migrations or upgrades. Now we have a different terminology called as brownfield. So I have worked on a couple of them as well. Numerous upgrades and rollouts. I've also worked on AMS structures where I was leading support frameworks and all those aspects of security. So I have quite a lot of experience in all these areas. So I would like to share my experience with you guys, and I hope that it will help you in your endeavor to know more on this. Okay, just give me 1 minute. Let me quickly finish my tea. Okay. Okay, great. So let me go through the agenda of what we have planned for this entire course. So we have split it into two parts. One will be the HANA security. The other one will be Fiori security. So when I say Fiori security, we are stepping into new arena, the widest horizon. So with Fiori 3, we have included those aspects as well, so that it'll be helpful in your projects or whatever you're looking for. It'll help you guys. So there are very new concepts which are in the market, like hardly 1 month old or 2 months old. So we have brought them in the curriculum as well. So that's why we have. So we have widened that horizon on Fiori, and we have included that. Let me start talking about first about the S4 HANA security. So here we will try to understand what S4 HANA or what SAP HANA actually is, what makes it different than other databases, or is it a database, or is it, what is S4 HANA and what is HANA? So we'll try to clear out those doubts as well. We'll briefly look into architectural part, what makes it special, this session. Then coming on to the HANA tools which are provided by SAP, we have HANA Studio, we have DBA Cockpit, we have SAP Cloud Cockpit, we have Web IDE. So we will look into all of those, and we will see if we can actually leverage the trial environment from SAP, or if it is not possible, we will go into the HANA server and work with the HANA Studio. So we will see what is convenient, and we can, both of them will be on similar phases. The logic, the technology may change, the interface may change, but the core will remain the same. So we will look into that. Then we will dig more deeper into what HANA security is all about. What constitutes the HANA security? What are the different attributes which we get in HANA security? Like we have information views. We will look into what are information views, how we can build the information views, what are the different types of information view, how can we leverage these information views. Although many of you being a security consultant may not work with information view, but there are cases where you will have to work on them. So, like I have experience, so it'll no matter if you work on them or don't work on them, it is very good to know what it is and how they are built. Okay, and that will help you in creating your privileges and roles. Then moving into the core HANA security aspects, we'll look into privileges, types of privileges, and we will take a deep dive into analytical privileges, the ones which you will be working on. You will be working on your building analytical privileges based on the information views which would have already seen by then. Okay, then we will move into the role concept. What actually is a role? It's not like your PFCG or any other role which you have on your ERP system. This is slightly different. The roles remain the same. I mean to say, the functionality of a role remains the same. It goes in line with the RBAC methodology, role-based access control methodology of SAP, but the roles are built a little differently on the database side. So we will look into that. We'll look into our daily bread and butter, which is user management. How how to work with the user, how to privilege, how to access, manage the access for the user. We will look into those, and while doing this, we will also look into what are the different aspects. So I might have not included all the headers in the agenda, but we will definitely look into all the other attributes which fall into place, like what is a schema, what is a package, and how do we work, what is a catalog. We will all look into those aspects as we go deeper into knowing and understanding these things. Okay, then we will move into a very interesting HANA Fiori UI5 Fiori security. So a lot of things you might have already know, you might have already worked with, but there are a lot of things which are pretty brand new. So which comes with 2020, and which has been in the later release FPS2 of 1909. I had the privilege of working on all these, so I'll be sharing that experience with you. So let's take a look at what Fiori security, what have we come up with, the Fiori security agenda. So first we will look into the introduction of Fiori. So what exactly is Fiori? So first we will clear out what makes it important and what is the ideology behind having Fiori as the major UX component for SAP. Okay, this is the driving factor in today's time. So the user experience, when I say UX is for user experience. That is the driving factor for all the organizations. And Fiori, how Fiori makes an impact in user experience, in enhancing the user experience. We will look into deployment options, how many ways the Fiori can be deployed. There are two ways, as I have mentioned there. One is central hub deployment, the other is on-prem deployment, which is also called as an embedded deployment. We will look into those details as well. We will see what a Fiori Launchpad is, what is a designer, how can we personalize a Launchpad, what are the design aspects, what is theming. All those things will be covered in end user perspective, the header. So in that we will see what a Launchpad, how is the look and feel for the user. So this is the end user perspective. So we will talk about the user's reaction or interaction with Fiori. So how does he look at Fiori, how can he explore Fiori, how can he leverage the available personalization items for his convenience, and what is the role which we play in that, in those aspects. Okay, we will look into the deployment options, how can we deploy Fiori, what are the design aspects, what are the design aspects, what are the design aspects, what are the design aspects,
Raghu? Hello? Raghu?
was
This
I
conference will
explaining,
now be recorded.
about Fiori, or where did you guys lose me?
Yeah, you are talking about the Fury.
Okay, so let me begin again. So uh, Fiori security. Okay, so what are the things which we are going to look into Fiori security? So first we will start by introducing what Fiori exactly is. Okay, so we will look into what makes it special, what is the strategy for SAP to come up with Fiori, and what are the different aspects which involves in SAP UI5 Fiori. Then we will look into the deployment options. That there are two ways of deploying. One is the hub model, the central hub, and the other one is on-prem, which is also called as an embedded way of deployment. So we will look into both of them, what is different in both of them, and which one to choose from. Okay, so these are the questions which we will answer. We'll try to answer here. There is no yes or no or a hardcore true or false in these, but we will try to analyze which one will be better based on the situation. So we will try to answer those questions as well. Sorry. Then we will look into the end user perspective. So we will step in the shoes of an end user and we will try to look at Fiori. So how does it look? What is a Fiori launchpad? What is a designer? And what are the personalization options which are provided by SAP in order to end user, in order for end user to design the look and feel he wants, right? And what will be our role in helping the user or enabling the user in doing so. So we will look at that end user perspective. We will talk about launchpad, we will talk about what are the components, how and where can he search for the apps, what are the apps visible, and all those things we will talk about in the end user perspective chapter. Then we will move into the types of apps, how they are designed, what are the different types of apps which are available, what is Fiori apps library, how can we leverage the information available, which are the information available in the Fiori apps library provided by SAP. Okay, so yeah, so we will look at Fiori apps library and the information available, all those things in the Fiori apps section. Then we will dig more deeper into the technicalities. So we will see what catalogs and what are groups. So these are the basic building blocks of Fiori. So we will look into catalogs and we will look into groups, and how we can design a catalog, how we can design a group, what are the implications of designing these catalogs and groups, and how it impacts our security authorizations and the backend role. We will look at those aspects as well. Okay, then we will move into authorization provisioning. What will be the PFCG role? How will PFCG role play a role in Fiori, right? We will see that. How are the authorizations on your S4 HANA system impacting the performance, or improving or restricting the access on Fiori Launchpad? We will see that. We will see what is a gateway system. Okay, how a gateway system performs, and what are the different aspects connecting the gateway to the backend system. We will look at OData concepts. OData concepts are pretty complex ones, more related to ABAP, but we will touch upon OData, what is relevant to Fiori, or what is relevant to a security practitioner like us. Okay, and how does it impact our role as well? So we will look into that. Then moving on, so okay, so this is something which we have included in this session. So this is brand new. We will look into the deployment approaches. Okay, so these approaches are been there from the time Fiori was there, but there are few new improvements in these approaches, and the roadmap which the SAP has provided is very different than what it was before. So we will look at how we can approach a deployment scenario with any client. So there are multiple approaches which can be followed. So we will look into all those in detail. We will see what is the showcase approach. We will see what is cherry picking. We will see what is Fiori first. We will also see the hybrid of all these three. Okay, so that is the deployment approaches which we'll be talking about. Then we will move into the brand new SAP Fiori 3 functionalities. So what are the new tools which have been introduced in the market with SAP Fiori 3, with HANA 1909 FPS 2 version? We'll see SAP Activate methodology. What Activate methodology is, how can we use this Activate methodology in improving the role design which we have, right? So we will look into Activate methodology. We will also look into brand new elements like application cards. What is a card? Okay, it's not a tile, it's not a target mapping. It is something very different, something very new, and something very innovative which SAP has come up with. We will look into what are application cards. Then moving into something which will come in the future. Okay, this is already available for cloud, but it is not available for on-prem. This is Fiori spaces and pages. What are spaces, what are pages? We will look into those details as well. Okay, so moving on, we will see what Fiori SAP's roadmap is for Fiori, or how you can lay a roadmap for your client. So if someone has having SAP Fiori in their mindset, then how can we lay a path towards a Fiori first or entirely Fiori approach, right? So we can look at the different ways of approaching to achieve the target. Okay, so that is something new which we have added. Then we will look into troubleshooting issues. This is what a security and consultant or a security practitioner will do day in and day out once the system is live. So we will see how we can trace error, how we can analyze the error, what are the important T codes which are needed in the same aspect. We will look at the service library. What are the services? What are the SICFs node? What is alias? All those technical terms we will cover in the troubleshooting aspect. Although spread across all the other divisions, so we will touch upon the things which we have left out. Okay, so that's how we have designed it. And yeah, so that's about the agenda. So any questions or anything which you think we have missed out, or any suggestion for inclusions, or what is your take on the agenda? So I would like to know. Can you guys hear me? Am I audible? So one thing I wanted to you guys to know, I hate monologues. So I would like this to be a very interactive session. where we can have a dialogue. So let's talk. I mean, I don't want to be the only one who's talking here, and it looks like I got disconnected every time. So please help me. Please tell me what you feel about the agenda. If you have any questions, I'll be very happy to answer them. Suresh, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. I don't see.
Guys,
Yeah, hi, this is Jagmeet. So I
Hi,
just
Jagmeet.
wanted to know regarding that the S4 security and the Fiori security are two different things, right?
We will discuss. It's a very sensitive topic which you have touched. Okay, so when you talk about S4 security separately, you cannot separate it from Fiori. The S4 aspect is now Fiori. Okay, the other part is the database security. When you come to the there are two parts. Okay, one is the database part, one is the application part. Okay, database part is what we cover in our the first segment, which is S4 HANA security, and the application part is spread across Fiori and your regular ECC. Okay, so that remains the same. What changes we have in S4 is Fiori. Fiori was not there earlier. Fiori is the new soul for your application. So when we talk about S4 security, we will see how Fiori plays a part in it. We will also touch upon, see, there is not the conceptually speaking, ECC and S4 HANA security, the core remains the same. You still have the PFCG role, you still have the objects, you still have the classes, everything remains the same. But what is new, we are only touching upon what is new. So the new is Fiori. So we will talk about Fiori, and we will also talk upon about the migration, what is new in your authorization segment. We can also talk about that, but I don't see a lot of difference between ECC security and to S4 security. So but we have to pull in Fiori to understand S4 better. That's what I feel. I hope I answered your question.
Okay, okay, thank you. I got your point.
Yep. Any other questions, clarifications?
So is it necessary to learn SAP security and Fiori security parallelly? I mean, these both are interdependent on each other.
Definitely yes, both of them are dependent. So I am going by a predefined notion that you guys are security practitioners. So correct me if I'm wrong. So I am going to eliminate, or I'm going to ignore the basics of security, and I'm only going into Fiori. So if you want me to touch upon the basics as well, I can do that as well, but you guys need to let me know. So that's the reason why I asked for what is your background, where you come from. So if you want me to brush upon the basics of security like PFCG roles, objects, derived role, I can do that. Not a problem at all. The only thing is you need to let me know beforehand so that I can cover that during my sessions.
Vamsi, Sandeep, Prachi, Nambi,
The room
Dhaval,
is really the room is very silent. So
just
it really scares me.
think seems they don't have any questions.
That's great.
Uh,
Okay, I'm happy if there are no questions. So I take that as a yes for the agenda for to go ahead. Okay, so let's begin uh, with the demo aspect. Okay, so what we have planned. So I had planned for introducing S4 HANA or SAP HANA database security. Okay, so as I said, I don't like monologues. So I just want this to be an interactive session. So if you guys can please speak up, that'll do a lot of good for me when we're taking the session, because if I have no one to speak to, it looks like I'm explaining these things to myself, which I know already. Okay, just a humble request from my side. Okay, so let's look at SAP HANA database security. Okay, so what is HANA? Okay, HANA is actually an acronym. It is for high performance analytical appliance. Okay, so what do SAP do? SAP has promised high performance with this database, with this the latest of all the databases which we have, and they deliver on this promise. Okay, so HANA is database. So going forward, you will learn that HANA is not just a database, but it is something else too. But for now, to begin with, let's consider HANA as a database like any other database like Oracle or DB2 or MaxDB, whatever, right? HANA is a database. So what makes HANA so special and stand out of its league, right? There are many aspects to HANA which stands it out. I mean, which makes it stand out from the crowd. Okay, so I have picked three of those such beautiful qualities of HANA so that I can explain you better. Okay, so I bet you guys have noticed whenever you search for HANA on Google, the first word you notice would be in-memory database. Okay, so we will try to understand what in-memory database is actually. Okay, so let's take a look at in-memory database. I have tried to explain this with a simple analogy of an office worker. Okay, so here is a person. Okay, he's a 9 to 5 working guy. He works in a government office. Let's call him Praveen. Okay, so his job is to address people. So people come to him with queries. He get the reports, he get the information which they are looking for, and he provides them with the information which they are looking for. So to get the information, he refers to a rack or a file cabinet which is placed next to him, and whenever there is a query which he gets, he goes to the rack, he picks up the relevant file, he gets it on his table, and then go through that record and finally fetch the result for that query. Okay, so that's his day-to-day activity. So let's overlap it with our HANA concept. Okay, let's call this book rack or the book cabinet or the file cabinet as the database which contains all the bulk of the information. Okay, so once the Praveen goes to the database, he fetches the book, he keeps it on his table, right? So let's call table as the quick access memory, or just call it a memory. It is which can be roughly equated to your RAM, random access memory, which is way too faster than what a database is. Okay, and Praveen himself is a processor. So what Praveen does, he fetches the data, puts it on the memory, and then looks through it. He executes the query. Okay, this is every database structure we have except HANA. Take it Oracle, be it Oracle, DB2, MaxDB, whatever. So this is the three-tier architecture which they follow, where the query is pushed through the memory. If the data is not available on the memory, they will go to the database, fetch it, bring it to the memory, and then execute the query. Okay, so do you see a flaw in this particular system? So don't you think it will be very easier for Praveen to have access to all these books right where he sits, right? He sits on a table. Will it not be very convenient for Praveen to just pick a book from his table and start looking through it? He don't have to walk through the cabinet every time he gets a query, right? So will it not be convenient? And although the second aspect would be, how about I compress all these books into a smaller number of books without compromising the integrity of the data, like without losing the information. So for example, let's tear off all the blank pages and compress the files. Okay, that will do a word of good for Praveen. If every record in the cabinet is compressed into a smaller format and kept directly on his table, that will make Praveen's life a way lot easier. That's what SAP thought. Okay, and they have come up with the in-memory database. So he is the redefined Praveen with SAP HANA. Okay, so what they have done here, they have gathered all the information which is in the database, compressed it very much. Okay, there is a lot of compression which happens, and they provide everything on the memory itself. Okay, so you cannot separate the database and the memory. So that's why the name in-memory database. Okay, here the table is the database as well as the memory. Okay, you can hardly differentiate between what is what, but ultimately the access becomes way lot faster than traditional database systems. So that is what in-memory database actually is. I hope this explanation will ease out the doubts which you have. Do you have any other questions here? Can I move on?
Yeah, it's clear.
Great, great, thank you. Let's see. So this is the HANA in memory, and that's what makes the in-memory processing so fast than any traditional system. Okay, so let's look at the other aspects, the technical aspects of what makes HANA stand out. Okay, so there is HANA supports both row and column based storage with optimization provided to column store. So how many of you are aware of row style storage and column based storage? It is completely a database terminology. So let me explain row and column store and which one is better. HANA has an optimization for column store, and let's see why column store has been optimized and how will it help us increase the speed of processing. Okay, let's take a look at that. So let me explain Rowstore. Okay, so I have taken a sample database, a small sector of a database. So here I have the IDs, I have the names of the students, I have the book which they have borrowed from the library. It's a library database. It's a small piece of a library database where I have the roll number or ID, I have the name of the student, and I have the book which he has borrowed. Okay, now this is how you look at this data on an Excel file, but that doesn't mean that the data is an app actually stored on the database in the same format. The database won't understand this, or it will be very difficult for the database to process such kind of data. Okay, so what the database does, it translates this data into a more readable format for itself. Okay, so it translates this data into records. Okay, in Rowstore, this is how it is stored. So every row, let me take a pointer here. Okay, so this is a row and this is a column. So in Rowstore, every row becomes one record. Okay, so as you have seen, record 1 is for Rohan, his roll number, his book. Record 2 is for Suresh, his roll number and his book. Similarly for record 3 for Samir. Okay, so now let's throw a simple query to this particular database. Okay, so the query is, I want to know how many books have been borrowed. I don't want to know who borrowed them, what is his roll number, what is his phone number, what is his gender. I don't want all that. I only want to know how many books have been borrowed from my library. So this is the query. So now just let's try to parse it from this particular storage. So to get the all the books which have been borrowed, the parser or the processor has to go through all the 3 records, right? So the book has an entry in all the records. So I need to go through all these 3 records in order to get the required information. Same goes with the names of the students who have a borrowed book. Okay, so it becomes very difficult to parse through. Although this has been done from time immemorial, from the time database has started, most of the databases which we have today are row store mechanism only. It has its advantages, but it has major disadvantages like this one. Okay, the parsing time, the processing time increases exponentially with every row. And you guys have to understand the number of columns is always less than a number of rows. Okay, the headers are always limited, the data is limitless, it keeps on piling up. Okay, the headers remain the same, the name will remain the same, only the number of names keeps on increasing. So that's the difference between a row and a column. So in Rowstore, this is how the records are stored, and a simple query will take me through, go through all 3 records and to get the final result. Let's look at what a column store is. Okay, these are the columns. I have taken the same sample piece of database and these are the columns. So now, as the name suggests, every column has been turned into one record. Okay, so record 1 has roll numbers, record 2 has names, and record 3 has books. Okay, now the same query, I need to go through only record 3. So you may ask me, what if I want to know who has borrowed what book? I need to go through only 2 records. So remember, in every query, you don't want all the columns to be in your resultant result. There will be only selected columns every time. Okay, so for example, you have a citizen database. Okay, you have name, gender, marital status, his Aadhaar card number, PAN card number, phone number, email address, and whatnot. Okay, there'll be like 200 columns for each person, but the query will not, the query result will not be looking for all 200 items, right? It will only look for one particular thing or maybe 2 or 3 particular things at one given time. It may need his name, last name, phone number, and his marital status only, or sometimes it may need his spouse's name or his marital status, whatever. Okay, not all the columns are needed. So the execution time reduces drastically when we have column store. Okay, I hope this explanation of row and column store is good enough for you. So are you guys following this? Do you have any questions, guys?
No.
Anyone? Yeah, great. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, the other important aspect of HANA database is the compression mechanism. Okay, so as I told, Praveen's database, the bookshelf and the rack, it is compressed to a very exponential level. So let's look at what compression actually is. Okay, so compression is not unique to HANA. It has been there for all the databases, but when we compare, when we combine the column store optimization with compression, it gives drastically better results. Okay, so let's look at compression. I have taken the same set of data. We have a little bit extended data. So we have a row number, we have the roll number, we have the student, and we have the book. So the same kind of data, but you see here the names are duplicated. Rohan has borrowed two books. He has borrowed Java and SAP. Suresh has borrowed C++ and SAP. Okay, similarly the books are also replicated here. So Java, there are 3 books of Java which has been borrowed by 3 different set of guys, right? So okay, so the best way to compress the data is to remove duplicates without compromising the integrity. Okay, now I don't want Rohan to be appearing twice, or I don't want Java to be appearing thrice, but I don't want to lose the information that okay, these are the guys who have used these books or who has borrowed these groups. Okay, so that is the ideal way of compression, which is applicable to every compression mechanism, right? Even compressing a video has the same logic. Okay, the other one is the type of the storage, the item which has been stored, not the book. I'm not referring to the physical item. I'm talking about the item on the database, right? The name is a string type. Okay, and roll number is a integer type. So it's been widely known that string types take a lot of space when compared to an integer. Okay, so combine these two things together and let's come up with something unique. Okay, let's turn this particular data into a vector table. Okay, what is a vector table? Now what a vector table does is it converts all the strings and assign it to an integer and remove the duplicates. Let's see. Okay, now I have removed the duplicates names. Rohan, Suresh, Samir, Subhash all feature only once, and I have assigned an integer to this. So whenever I say 1, it is Rohan. Whenever I say 2, it is Suresh, right? Same ones, go on, so on and so forth. Similarly, I have assigned vectors to the books as well. 1 is C++, 2 is Java, and 3 is SAP. Okay, now this is my reference table. The size of these two tables combined is very less compared to the actual data which you have. On in this table it may not look so great, but I'll take a real world example later and I'll explain you how drastically the size reduces. Okay, now there is one more aspect of not losing the integrity of the data, right? So what I'll do, I will overlay this information onto the actual information and I get something like this. Okay, here everything is changed into an integer, but the integrity has not lost. Okay, I still know Rohan has borrowed 2 books. I still know Suresh has borrowed 2 books. I still know there are 3 Java books which has been borrowed. Okay, so this is how the compression mechanism works in HANA. In any other system, but let's say just HANA as we are talking about this. Okay, this may not look so glorious to you. So let me take a real world example. Okay, so here I have taken the population of Karnataka. Roughly 5 crore people stay here in Karnataka, 50 million. Okay, now I have a database with all their first names. Okay, just the first name. So my data is 55 crore first names. If I go by the standard, every string type will take approximately 50 bytes. Okay, 50 bytes of storage, and to save 5 crore names I will end up using 350 GB of data space, 350 gigabytes of space on my database. Okay, now let's apply the vector logic to this one. Okay, now how many of these names will be unique? Okay, there will be thousands and lakhs of Raghus, thousands and lakhs of Sureshs in Karnataka, right? So let's eliminate all them. So let's eliminate all the duplicates. Take one name. Let's say we have 50 lakh unique names in Karnataka. It may be more, but just for an example, let me take 50 lakh first names. And what I have done here, I have converted that into an integer. I have eliminated the string type and I have assigned one integer to each of the names. Okay. Now what do I get here? The actual vector table. So every integer take 23 bytes, 23 bits of it space. Now we have two different tables. One is the vector table, one is the actual data table. Actual data table without the duplicate. So what do I get? 200 MB of the vector table where all are integers, and the mapping of it is 20 GB. So I get the same information in 21 GB storage. Don't you think that is staggering difference in terms of compression? So that's what HANA gives us. Okay, it gives us a lot of compression. 20x SAP claims, may not be that much, but maybe 15, 16x. There is no doubt in anyone's mind that it gives us a 15x compression rate. So 100 GB of data can be saved in 6 GB of space. So that's how beautifully the compression works in HANA. And we couple this with the column store. Okay, it even reduces the speed. So that's why column store has been optimized along with the compression, gives us a wonderful result for HANA database. Any questions over here? Is this compression clear? I've tried to explain this in as simple way as possible.
Yeah,
Okay,
here I'm having one query.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, here vector indicates for the column rows, and there will be two tables, right? And that
Correct.
indicates both the tables are only one single table.
No, it indicates two tables. Okay,
Two
so
tables.
every
Okay,
time there
what?
is a, yeah, every time
Yeah.
the processing goes, it has to go through the actual table and the vector table. But you need to
Okay. Okay.
consider the parsing is really high speed here because of the because of the integers and because of the column store mechanism.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, let's move on. So let's take a look at the architecture part. Okay, so if you type HANA architecture in Google, you will see a lot of diagrams which may confuse you. Okay, so there is a lot of technical information stuffed into it which may not be relevant for a security practitioner. So what I have done here, I have simplified the architecture so that it becomes more relevant and more understandable. I am not compromising on the details, but I have just eliminated the technical terminology which has been used and try to make it as simple as possible. We will also look at the MDC concept. We'll look at MDC concept once we take a look at the architecture part. So let's take a look at the architecture. So let me try to explain how different our HANA architecture is based on the along with the traditional system. Let's take an example of traditional system. So in a traditional system, you have a database, call it Oracle DB2, SQL DB, whatever. Okay, on top of the database, you have the application layer. The application is your SAP ECC, your Oracle Financial. It can be JD Edwards, it can be whatnot, whatever the application it is running on. Okay, so and the third layer becomes the presentation layer, which is exposed to the end user. So it might be GUI, your SAP GUI, or web apps, your browser, or whatever. Okay, that is the presentation layer. So this is the traditional three-tier architecture which is in place from a very long time. So in your college days, you might have seen the client server architecture with the three-tier architecture. So this runs on the same thing, right? So three-tier architecture is it's been there from a very long time. So HANA changes this setup. Okay, now remember the first line I said HANA is a database, but you'll soon learn that it is not just a database. So this is the time when I explain HANA is not just a database, but it is actually a platform. Okay, so whenever you call HANA is a platform, and it's not just a database, it is a platform. Why do we call it as a platform? Because HANA totally takes the application layer into itself. It makes it its own. Okay, the application sits inside of HANA. The database and the application layer are bundled together. Okay, and the only other layer will be the presentation layer. So this is the HANA two-tier architecture. What are the advantages? So the advantages become very visible when the processing, the physical distance, or if it is cloud, then the integration with the application becomes exponentially higher than what we see in a three-tier architecture, right? So this is how HANA two-tier architecture works. So HANA is a platform because the entire application layer resides inside the database. You cannot separate the two. Okay, the database, the application, everything is on one table or one plate, and the only other plate would be the presentation view, which is exposed to the user. Okay, so let's look at what is new with HANA 2. Okay, MDC. This was not earlier available in HANA initial releases of HANA. Sorry, initial releases of HANA, it was not available, but this was made available from HANA 2.0 system. So what is MDC? MDC stands for multi-tenant data containers. Okay, what are multi-tenant data containers? Let's take a look. Sorry. So I have a system here. Okay, what does a system usually has? It has a storage. Okay, it has the overlying operating system and the hardware. Then you have your traditional database setup. Okay, so this is my entire system. Now in my database system, I want to deploy two different applications. Let's say Fiori is one application, CRM is the other application. Now how can I do it? Okay, I have one database. Okay, even if I consider two databases as well, which is currently available. So what, without the multi-tenant container, so what we usually do is we use two entirely different databases and connect it to different applications. Now in a hypothetical way, if you see, if I want to deploy it on one database, I will have to create two different schemas. Okay, schemas are nothing but folders. Okay, so I use one schema for Fiori and one schema for CRM. This is, let me put it straight to you, this is never followed. This is just a conception, and I'm trying this analogy so that I explain the demerits of a distributed database system for different applications. Okay, so let's call this two schemas are used for two different applications. So what are the demerits? I cannot look at Fiori without looking at CRM. I cannot separate these two because the underlying database is one. Okay, although they are reside in different schemas, the underlying architecture remains the same. I cannot back up this separately. I cannot apply policies for this separately. I cannot move this separately. I cannot do anything with this separately. I have to take this friend along with it. Okay, so let's look at the drawbacks in a more technical way. Okay, scalability. Okay, these are the keywords which you can use. Scalability is not possible at all. Okay, I cannot scale one application to a different version while the other remains same. I cannot do that because I need to apply those patches at the database level, which will be applicable for all the applications. So it is not scalable. It is not possible to back these up separately. If I want to take a hard backup or a snapshot of Fiori, I cannot do that without taking a snapshot for CRM. Okay, when I say snapshot, it's a basis terminology where you take the entire setup as is and keep it as a reference, and it can be used reused later. So that's a snapshot for your information. So I cannot do that. Okay, I cannot do that when you have same database with two different applications. So it is not scalable, and it is not possible to take a backup separately. Policies and customizations cannot be done independently. As I said, if I have to apply a database policy onto Fiori, that will be automatically applicable for CRM. I cannot do a separate thing here. Okay, and on top of this, it is not suitable for a cloud environment. SAP cloud or Azure or AWS, this is not suitable at all. So even if you go for a cloud, they will have their own dedicated tenants or dedicated databases on itself, and this logic cannot be applied on a cloud. Okay, to overcome all this, SAP HANA 2.0 came up with the concept of MDC, multi-tenant data containers. Let's look at that. Okay, you have the same storage, you have the same operating system and the hardware, and you have now the SAP HANA 2.0 system. Okay, what is a tenant? The dictionary meaning of a tenant is someone who has rented out space. He is my tenant. I have rented out my house to him. He is my tenant. The same logic applies here. You have one database which is controlled and managed by the system database, which you can see here, and this is a let out space. So the same database has been divided into smaller bits called tenant database, and each of this tenant database can be viewed as a separate database on its own when it is required. When I say when it is required, it can be a separate database if you want to, or it can be a same database if you want to, because there is a control database here which is called as a system database. So the number of tenants is proportional to the space of your HANA system. It can be n number of tenants you can have in your system. So for this instance, I have taken two tenant databases, one for Fiori, one for CRM. So I cover all the demerits which are there in the earlier system. This is scalable. Of course, it is scalable, right? Each of the tenants can be scaled to any patches, any upgrades can be done independently on this particular database. And if there is something which I want to be applied to both these applications, I do it on the system database. System database, if I do it, it is applicable for all its tenants. It is like your apartment building. Okay, you have complete ownership of your home, but if there is something applicable for the entire apartment, that is also applicable for you. Or if you choose to, you can stay away from it as well. So that's how it works. That's how the tenant database works. So it is scalable, it is suitable for cloud, and you can back it up separately. You can apply the policies however you want to. If you want to apply only for Fiori, you apply it on this database. If you want to apply for every application, you apply the patches on system database. So we overcome all the demerits when we take into consideration the multi-tenant data containers. Okay, so that's how the simplest way of explaining it that I know. So I hope you guys are clear on this one. Do you have any questions? Okay, I take that. Yeah,
Raghu, where we use multi-data container generally in an SAP HANA?
everywhere. So if you open your HANA database system, every
Okay.
database you work is a tenant. It is not your system database. So it will clearly specify if it is a system database or a tenant database. Okay, so
Okay.
you can
Okay.
go take a look at the say, or ask your basis consultants if is it a system database or a tenant database. It will clearly mention that it is a tenant database. Especially if you are working on HANA 2.0, most of it will be tenant database.
Okay, Raghu, thanks.
Okay, great. So less questions. That means I'm very good. Thank you. Okay. So that's covers the speciality of SAP HANA as a database, as a platform. So do you have any questions for the overall thing?
Yeah,
Okay, that's good.
I got with your introduction. S4 HANA is different and S4 SAP HANA database is different, right?
I'm
And
coming to that.
this, sorry.
I'm coming to that point. I have the last
Oh,
point, which says S4
okay,
HANA
okay,
Suite. Yeah.
okay, okay, fine.
Yes. Please continue though. You continue your question.
No, 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 that's what I'm asking. Whether those two suits are different or it comes in the same category.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you.
Okay,
Okay.
okay,
So
thanks.
this is the first thing which everybody asks, right? What is HANA and what is S4 HANA? HANA is a database or it's a platform, whereas S4 HANA is the package. It is the suite which is given by SAP. Okay. Consider S4 HANA suite as a suitcase. Okay. The suitcase which is provided by SAP, which has one default item, which is the HANA database, and the other items you can pick and choose. Okay, most of them comes with Fiori as well. Okay, most of them comes with the ERP system, which is also called as S4. That is where the confusion lies. The ERP system, the Fiori UI5 system, and the HANA database. All this collectively is called as S4 HANA suite. Okay, S4 HANA suite contains the HANA database by default. It contains Fiori mostly by default. The users, the clients may opt not to. That is a different story. But usually it comes with Fiori UI5 and a ERP system, which is also called S4 system. You can call it ECC instead of ERP. You can call it ECC. The new name for ECC is S4, which goes along with the name of the suite as well. Did I clear your doubt?
Yeah, got it.
Great. So okay, so that's about S4 HANA, SAP HANA, and the database aspects. So what makes it special? What makes it good? So from the next class onwards, we will stick to the agenda. We will talk about what are information views. We will dig more deeper into the technical aspects of SAP HANA. Okay, any questions? Any questions on the topics which we covered? Any questions for me? Any questions on the agenda? Anything at all? I'll be very happy to answer.